Welcome to Talk Law Radio with attorney Todd Marquardt of the Marquardt Law Firm at marquardtlawfirm.com.
Welcome back to Talk Law Radio. I'm Todd Marquardt here with Christian Mueller, who's going to be telling us about his life and how he became owner of Club Pilates at Dominion. And before that, he was coaching women's basketball for 9 years, and after that coached men's basketball for 9 years. Then you started a business.
Yep.
Tell us how you got from A to B. How did you go from coaching and teaching to entrepreneurship?
It's a great question. When I was coaching, when I finished up there, I was coaching high school. And so you always have your feeder system that's going to lead into your high school, your 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade. And I was pretty active in our feeder system. I wanted to, try to get those coaches to learn some of the fundamentals and things that were going to be successful for the high school program. And I was very fortunate that they were willing to do that because they were part of the private school system that we were in. They really had a lot of belief in me after seeing the success that my high school teams had. And so they wanted their sons who were on the team to, get experience in the things that were going to help them when they moved up to the high school level. So whatever I asked them to do, they did. And I would go down and watch them. They'd practice 3 days a week at 2:30 in the afternoon. And so my schedule permitted me to go and watch them practice. And one day I asked them, I said, what is it that both of you guys do that you can coach your kids at 2:30 in the afternoon? And they were both business owners.
Okay,
and so,
that makes sense.
Yeah. My cousin actually owns 2 Club Pilates out in California, and he had talked to me about it before then. But I always sort of put it on the back burner. I loved coaching. I still love coaching. It's the best thing ever. And I was in no hurry to get out of it. But at that time, I think I had a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. And so I was starting to think ahead about, wanting to coach my own kids down the road. And so it made sense for me to look in the direction of being a business owner.
Okay. Well, that's a great way to think of it. My favorite photo that I've seen of you online is your LinkedIn profile. You have a banner of you with your arms way up and cheering. You just won some big game. Tell us about that game.
So that was actually in the playoffs. So when I took over that program at Round Rock Christian Academy the year before, they had won a single basketball games, no games in their district. And 5 months after I took over the program, we were really fortunate, but we were district champs and we made it to the final 8 of the state tournament. So that picture that you saw was actually in the second round of playoffs. And we were down 16 points with 5 minutes and 50 seconds to go and came back and won.
Awesome.
And so where you see my hands go up was actually when we got fouled with about a second left on the clock. And I knew at that point we were going to win. So
awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's a great story. Okay. Well, we know that you were a coach and a teacher. Tell us about how you became what you needed to be to get through all of that and to really start a business. Where did you come from?
Okay. So I think for me, I never had a dad growing up in New York. My grandparents were Lutheran missionaries, and when my mom and my dad divorced, my mom was going to have to assume the role of, primary breadwinner. And so my grandparents at that point, they were in their 70s. They were ready to retire. They were pastors out in St. Louis at the time. And so they agreed to move in with us in New York. And when I was 15, my mom passed away of a heart attack. So at that point, all of a sudden, I don't have any parents. And, that was obviously, that's hard for any kid to go through. I was angry at God, angry at the world. It's just, so easy to look around from a comparison standpoint and be like, well, half the kids have at least one parent. Nobody has none. You don't have anybody in your peer group that's in that same situation. So I really had a poverty mindset and a victim mindset. It was like, the world is against me, type thing. And, I ended up living in 2 different youth homes after that. Like I said, I was pretty angry. I could have gone to live with my aunt and uncle in Indiana, but I was just having a real hard time emotionally and kind of, processing everything that's happened in such a short amount of time, And so I ended up going to 2 different youth homes. Both of them are Christian based. They ended up, while they were very challenging, it ended up being a blessing. And when I was at the second youth home, we went to a public school there and I played basketball. And I was a sophomore at the time. I actually got, through foolishness, I got expelled at one point. I got suspended at another point. And my coach, who was only 27 at the time, asked his dad, his former high school coach, and said, should I kick this kid off the basketball team? Because at some point you got to think about what type of culture are you setting?
Right.
If I don't kick this kid off, what does it set for the rest of the team, et cetera? And his dad said, you probably should, but I'll tell you this right now. Basketball is the only thing that's going to reach that kid. And he was right. And so, I get emotional even just saying that, because the truth is he saved my life. At that point, that was about the only thing that I felt that I had going for me at that time. So his impact in my life, I finished up high school living on my own for 2 years in Arkansas because I wanted to stay. I could have gone back and live with my relatives, but I really did. I loved my coach. I loved my teammates. And so I wanted to continue that basketball experience. It was a good environment for me. And but since I was living on my own, I needed somebody to check on me, and he did that. So he was really there. Even at 27 years old, he really kind of had a fatherly role towards me, and that made me want to get into coaching.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Sure, that was hard for you as a child. It's hard for children that have 2 parents to make good decisions, but I'm glad that all turned out for you. And so you became a teacher. What was your background? What was your degree in?
So I went to Valparaiso University, and I majored in history with a minor in secondary education. And in my head, I just always thought, I'm just going to become a high school basketball coach. Well, This is Indiana, okay? Basketball is king up there the way football is down here.
Right.
So I think I applied for 15 jobs like right off the bat, just high school jobs that were posted as open. Had no idea how everything works, right? That you need to really be in the system at that school and be a teacher there. You don't just fill that one role. And so I actually, the only letter that I got back was from Michigan City School System in Indiana, and they said, we have an 8th grade girls job. And I can tell you right now that was not on my radar to coach girls at that time at all. And if it hadn't been that one particular team, I think that it would have stopped right there. But it was an incredible group that we had. There were a number of girls that had the ability to go and play in college. We went 11-1 on the year, and the only team we lost to had a girl who ended up playing in the Final Four for Xavier years later. So.
Well, if I had to guess, this was all God's plan for you. He was leading you, showing you those opportunities that were a good fit for you.
Yeah. I like the way you phrase that. I would agree. He took the circumstances of my life and was able to bring about a blessing in them and kind of cultivate, a heart for other people and sort of helping them develop in the same way that my coach did for me.
Yeah. Well, when I was preparing for our conversation today, knowing that Pilates is your main thing right now, I was searching for how does Pilates interact with the law? You know what I happened to find? Well, there's a certain guy named Pilates,
Joseph Pilates,
that came up with the workout methods. Can you kind of describe that? And then I'll tell you how it ties in with the law. Okay,
sure. So from my understanding, when I started, researching it back in the day, Joseph Pilates was basically acting as a nurse during World War I. And obviously the, human tragedy during that time and, all of the different illnesses and things that were happening to all the soldiers back then because it was so much more hand-to-hand combat than it is today with just, missiles and drones and things. But he had to witness so many of these people in the hospital. And he saw how long they were sitting in the beds, and he understood that their muscles were going to atrophy and they weren't getting to move at all. So he started pulling out some of the springs that were in the mattresses and then rigging up devices where, they'd get some type of movement, whether they were doing this, doing that, just anything to get the body moving. And I think it all spiraled from there and became what he called contrology, and this whole Pilates system. So all, spring-based and that sort of thing.
Okay, so it was sort of a proprietary thing that he developed. And over time, other people started adopting those methods of working out. And occasionally, somebody would put Mr. Pilates' photograph on their website and sort of claim that as their trademark. And so there's trademark infringement law, copyright infringement law. There's some big cases there. But you don't have to worry about that. Are you part of some type of franchise?
Yeah, absolutely. Not having much business experience myself, like I said, I did 18 years in coaching. Didn't know at all how that would translate, but I certainly had a lot of trepidation about jumping off into some other foray without any experience. And so I knew if I was going to do this initially, I wanted to be with a franchise. I was a basketball coach. We have a playbook. You give it to everybody so they have it in front of you and they can work on things, learn them over time. I was looking for the same thing. I was looking for a franchise to basically give me the playbook. I believe in it, and then I'm going to run with it.
Awesome. Well, we got to take a break, but when we come back, we'll be talking about sinners and saints and legacy too. Stay tuned.
This has been Talk Law Radio with attorney Todd Marquardt, brought to you by the Marquardt Law Firm. You can learn more at marquardtlawfirm.com. And be sure to listen to the full Talk Law Radio show Saturday mornings at 11 on 9:30 a.m. The Answer.
Most families don't realize they have hidden legal blind spots until it's too late. Wills, trusts, Medicaid planning, even protecting a business. These are the kinds of issues attorney Todd Marquardt helps uncover before they become problems. Todd is the host of Talk Law Radio, where each week he guides listeners through the legal challenges families, veterans, and business owners face, while showing them the practical steps to protect what matters most. Catch Talk Law Radio, Saturdays at 11 a.m. on 9:30 a.m. The Answer, 6:30 a.m. The Word, and now in Houston on AM 1070 and 103.3 FM The Answer, or anytime on YouTube. Planning isn't just about documents. It's about peace of mind, security for loved ones, and building a legacy that lasts. Don't wait for a crisis. Do it before you die.